Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dennis Alster and this is Getting in the Game. And I've got good news. I've got the flapperons all installed on the left side of the plane. So I know the process now for the way I want to do it, and it worked out really well. And if you're interested in that, stick around and we'll do the right side together. Well, the first thing we should go over is probably this little block here. I made a couple of them. They're supposed to be 19 plus or minus 2 millimeters for keeping the flapperon itself from the leading edge even all the way across. And the tricky part is this part here. When we get to it, that's going to be the very last part of the video when we're making the inboard and the outboard connected, and so that the outboard is tipped up slightly. This right here, this blow up, the picture is a little bit deceiving because that washer there is supposed to be between these two. I'm going to draw up another blow up view so that you can see the way I'm going to do it without looking at this. This is correct right here. I like that one. The other thing is this part here, this C75 W3-5, that's the wrong number for that part. A bracket in the front of the wing that holds the skin. The C75 W3-5 is this bracket here that holds the skin and reinforces that interior piece. And the part we're looking at here is W33. So this part here should be W33. As you can see, these all line up to this center point here. This lines up through here. This lines up through there. I get why they blew it up like that. It's really cool. But my starting point is, I don't know if that's right or not. This is the way I'm doing it. My starter point was shooting a laser light down through all of those 4 brackets. They have a very small hole in them. I'll show you. It's a small hole in each one of these down there, and as you can see here and there, and there's your pilot holes, the centers. I'm not going to move those at all. We got to use them. And I shot that laser down. That ended up on here, and I put that bracket on, so that is a perfect pivot point to these holes all the way down. As you can see, if you did line a light up down that, it would hit that. If these were off at all, the light probably wouldn't make it through all 4. But this is just your standard laser for, that won't hurt your eyes because it's a camera. Anyway, I'm going to start it here, support it with my fingers, and I'm shaky. But as you can see, it's lighting up that pole down there. Okay, I start with the inboard for no particular reason other than there is a hinge down there where the light hit. We drilled a hole and installed the bearing. So that is our starting point, because that lines up with all these holes. That was my logic on that. That'll sit there just fine until I find. Needle nose vice grips work pretty good. Anything bigger or thicker gets in your way of marking the hole through this pilot right here. Well, let's put the blocks in. I've got 2 of them made. This is just a preliminary thing. Center it on your L bracket. Put this slightly down in the back because that's where it's going to be when it's attached to the outside. And lightly clamp that off. Here's my other vice grips. I'm going to put this one up as far as I can so that block touches. Block looks good. Now the other thing is, I've got a straight edge here with a block taped to it that I notched and sets inside of it. And that measurement right there is 15 to 17. I've got marks on there. That is because when we do the outside one, the neutral position is when you put a straight edge on here and touch the center or that first row of, when you touch the first row of rivets, the second row of rivets kind of sits over that and it touches the rear here. Then the flapperon comes up and touches, that's the neutral position. But when these are attached together, this one's down 15 to 17 millimeters. And I made a block here just so I could find out when I set this on here that that's the 15 to 17 right there. Now it's important to tape it off. I slightly tape it off over there because every time I make an adjustment here, the angle changes. So now I can loosen this, put it halfway between right and left on that angle iron, that angle aluminum, angle iron. And that's the angle, that's where I want it. This one is up all the way, blocks are in there good. Double check our angle. So right there is our neutral position if it was attached to the outside piece. Once you're totally happy with the angle, you're up as far as you can go and the blocks are touching all the way along nice and even, then mark your hole. And here is our 8 to 12 millimeters up from the bottom where we're going to drill that hole now. Yeah, I'm inside the halfway mark. That's good. And from the bottom up to the center, it's 10.4. So that's perfect. That's right between 12 and 8. If I close to it, well, it's closer to 11. The longer the drill I use, the straighter it'll be. Let's remember, this one is just going to have a bolt passing through it. So we don't want to put the big hole in this one. We want the 4.8 or the one for a AN3. That's a lot better. Here's my exploded view. We just drilled that hole. That little bolt's going to go through there with a washer on it. And in between the bracket that we're going to do right now is supposed to be a washer with this sleeve inserted through that washer and against the aluminum that we just drilled. So, and then this is a spacer washer that keeps this bracket off of this washer. This washer here will go on with the nut. We'll tighten that against this wall and it'll all become one solid piece, but this piece will pivot inside the hole that we're going to drill right now. And we're going to ream it so that it's really smooth and round, so that we want to make sure these little sleeves, I believe it's C75A2-2s, we want to make sure that these babies fit in there snug but perfect, but not snug enough that they can't rotate. I'm going to start with a 4.8, just as square as I can to it. And what I found was for this reamer to go a size under it, a C, as in cat or Charlie, worked really well. I'll double check I grabbed a C. Yep. Before I reamed it, in case I did something wrong, I double check and the sleeve will not fit in. It's just kind of sitting there on the edge, it won't fit in. drills by hand typically do not drill perfectly round holes. Oh, that's snug fit. Once I clean it up, it'll go in, but I'm leaving that just like that. Perfect. In case you didn't catch it, this is a 6.4 reamer, in case you haven't seen one. I'll see if I can get it to highlight. There, see those flutes? They're all straight and flat. That little bit of taper, there's different debates on what size hole that you should leave for it to eat out the material. Bevel that edge just a little, help hold the grease. I'll set the camera up so that you can see over my shoulder when I do this one. What I'm using is an AN4 washer, standard thickness. And I'm going to go in from this side. But we want to put a AN3 washer on the bolt first. Then the sleeve. And this is going to be our spacer. And then this is going to go through the big hole and the bigger hole for the sleeve. But the challenge is going to be this one has to stay. This one has to stay up in between. And there's just enough tension there to hold it. So that's good. And the idea is we're going to shove this, the little cylinder, the bearing I call it, or sleeve, through. And now it may be into this, but it needs to, there, now it's through this, but it needs to go the wash past that washer. That's the tricky part. There, just wiggling it, got it there. And then of course, this retaining washer, and this will be a lock, nylon lock eventually. Right now it's a castle nut. And that draws up nicely and it pivots on here. See, the bolt is going to be solid. This is going to be compressed to its torque specs, and that will hold that sleeve in the center of this nice and solid to this piece here. It's interesting. It's almost as if the ailerons need to go towards the fuselage a little bit. They're just under a little bit of tension. Like it would want to fit on the inside of that rather than the outside of it. I guess that's the way it is. I can't change anything. So I'm going to start the same thing on this side, but it's a little bit different because the starting point, you still got to use their blocks. But now the neutral position is just a straight. So we got our blocks in. Start out with close to the neutral position. There's the neutral position. That's touching. That's touching. The round part of this is just sticking out the back, which I like. And this one is just sticking out the back, the radius of this arm. Oh, that one's close to the 8. This end must have been a hair higher. One's about 10. I think the other one's 9. Let's go measure them. All right, that couldn't be more in the middle. That is really nice. Now, the way I could make it tighter without raising and lowering is to move my hole backwards, which would move this forward and closer to the wing. But let's just see. Right there is 8, almost 9. So that's within specs. That one's 9.3. So that's well within specs also. Since these are where they're going to be, all I got to do now is ream those other holes out. Those are easy to do. They're stressful before you do them. Then you just clean up the edges and the sleeve should fit right in there. And then of course, once I get these 2 completely bolted up like I did the other 2, then we can start positioning here for those 2 brackets in the center that hold it. Well, it's pretty easy to do, but don't flip this around so that the hole's nearest the front. It's got to be towards the rear. And this is how it's going to end up looking with this outboard. Is going to be 15 millimeters to 17 millimeters higher. So I'm going to just flip this up out of the way. Put these as far forward and far back as possible. Lined it up with the inside back of that rib, even across the top. And this hole is forward as possible because there's a little lineup hole for this side rib that it's going to go in, and you want good edge distance from that. And then now that I set it up and drilled the holes, you can see this little retainer hole for the rib is awfully close. So if you accidentally put that back too far, you could be on top of that. Another quick thing, if you don't have a denibber for something that's completely together, I just take a rivet and grind it flat on both sides, down about 1/4 of an inch until it's sharp on one edge, bend her over about that far. You can reach up in there and just ream it around in those small holes, and it works good. I don't feel any binding. Now put your finger between here, and if they were fighting each other, it would squeeze your finger or loosen. First thing I'm going to do is cleco this up to it, and then the outside, the outboard, is the one, and line these up so that they're same shape. I'm going to go 17. Right there. Now you just make a line on the back side, according to the top, right here, right here. And then when I cut this, trim that. The hardest part is getting it to drill through in the right spot. I'm going to double, triple check this. First thing you want to do with this is lay out your holes on it so that you'll have something after you tape it up there to drill through. It's kind of the hard part, getting it taped up. Slide this between the two. That's a ticket. Lower it down. Slide right behind there. Now I need my measuring stick. Let's take this off and get that out of the way. And I think I'll have to trim that down a little more. try. Well, thanks a lot for coming along. I'm sure happy to get those behind me. All I got to do now is take the wings off, put them back in their caddy, and I can get the fuselage put back over here, and we get a garage back. But I got to get a couple guys yet. I'm filming. That's all right, I don't care. I'm done. Hi, baby. That are done, that is seeing this, and have had this happen where the inside rivets, they're rubbing. Because these all want to push it that way. What did you guys do about that? Did you just put a shim in here and shove it out just a little further? A couple washers or something? But then it would push all these little horns over just a little more.